Hello, beloved of the Lord. This is Bev Potter. It is October 23rd, 2018. Okay, I am not trying to inundate you, but that's the word that came to me. But I do feel that I'm supposed to do this video, so here I am. I think it might be somewhat prophetic, considering in Revelations that the dragon tries to overwhelm the woman with an inundation, a flood, but the earth opens up to save her. So I find that quite interesting. God's choice of words there. All right, this video I'm going to call All Satan's Plans Come to Naught. And I would, yes, just like to go through a few things with you and some of the words the Lord has given me, revelations and things that have encouraged my heart. And I pray that they will encourage yours also. All right, so I would like to start with, the fact that there was another major Antichrist on the earth many years ago, and his name was Nimrod. And so I would just like to take a few minutes to look at what he did back then and how that turned out for him. All right, so this is from the book of Jasher, and this is one of the reasons I really encourage people to get these books. You can just look them up online. There's a few, like the book of Enoch, the book of Jasher, the book of Jubilees, and the Apocrypha. I would say those ones for sure are like super valuable and give us a much better understanding of our own history, because the wool has been pulled over our eyes for too long. All right. Now, so I want to look in the book of Jasher, chapter 8, and we're just going to run through what happened back then. I just want to make a quick note though. You know, in our Bibles, we hear about Abraham, and it's just like, one day God just randomly picked this guy and decided to make a nation out of him. Like, for no particular reason. Like, we don't see any reason in our Bibles. And that's pretty sad, because that is not the case. Not really surprising, but anyway, in the book of Jasher, we learn about the birth of Abraham, and Nimrod tried to kill him. So when he was born, there were signs in the heavens, there were stars, and wait a minute, oh yeah, let's look at that. All right, so chapter 8. It was night, it was in the night that Abram was born, that all the servants of Terah, Abraham's father, and all the wise men of Nimrod and his conjurers came and ate and drank in the house of Terah. And they rejoiced with him on that night when his son was born. And when all the wise men and conjurers went out from the house of Terah, they lifted up their eyes toward heaven that night to look at the stars, and they saw, and behold, one very large star came from the east and ran in the heavens, and he swallowed up the 4 stars from the 4 sides of the heavens. And all the wise men of the king and his conjurers were astonished at the sight, and the sages understood this matter, and they knew its import. And they said to each other, "This only betokens the child that has been born to Terah this night, who will grow up and be fruitful and multiply and possess all the earth. He and his children forever, and he and his seed will slay great kings and inherit their lands." And the wise men and conjurers went home that night, and in the morning all these wise men and conjurers rose up early and assembled in an appointed house. And they spoke and said to each other, "Behold, the sight that we saw last night is hidden from the king. It has not been made known to him. And should this thing get known to the king in the latter days, he will say to us, 'Why have you concealed this matter from me?' And then we shall all suffer death. Therefore, now let us go and tell the king the sight which we saw and the interpretation thereof, and we shall then remain clear." All right, so what happens is the king's not impressed. He wants to keep ruling, and he decides to kill Abram. So he offers Abram's dad, Terah, money for his son so he can take him and kill him. Well, Terah's not very impressed with that. And he says, I beseech thee, my lord and king, what is this which thou didst say unto me, saying, Give thy son, that we may slay him, and I will give thee silver and gold for his value. What shall I do with silver and gold after the death of my son? Who shall inherit me? Surely then at my death the silver and gold will return to my king who gave it. So, very good argument. The king was really, really mad. So Terah took a few steps backwards and said, everything I have belongs to you. Anything you want is fine. Just let me go back to my household and talk it over with them. Just give me 3 days, to work things out. And then you can have the child. And so the king said, okay. So what happened was God pulled a switch. Well, Terah pulled a switch, but it was God working through Terah. And it ended up that one of the servants, and I believe this was a voluntary thing, because Nimrod said that if you don't give me that child, I will come and slay your entire household, like every single person in this household. So when Terah went to talk to his household, I'm sure he gave them all the details. And so they understood that either Abram, who is going to rise up to be a great man, is going to be killed, or someone else is going to volunteer the baby, which is what happened. And I believe that that person was hugely blessed, and that baby was destined to save Abram. And I believe there's a great reward in heaven for that, for both the mother and the child. So what happened was Terah took this child, and the king thought it was Abram, and he just smashed it on the ground. But you know what? I have learned recently that angels are able to take spirits or souls out of children before they feel the pain. So that puts a new light on things. All right. So, but let's skip ahead to the Tower of Babel. I want to tell you that story, because that was really my point. Just to make a point here, in Jasher 9:11, it says, Abram was waxing great in the house of Noah. So did you know that Abram grew up for many years with Noah? And so he learned many, many things. He was a spiritual giant before the Lord called him to be the father of Israel. All right. Okay. So let's skip now to chapter 9, verse 20. And King Nimrod reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control. And all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. And then 21 to 22, they decide to build the tower. All right, and all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together. And there's a bunch of names here. Okay, Phut, Mitzrayim, Cush, and Canaan with their families. And they said to each other, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and in it a strong tower, and its top reaching heaven. And we will make ourselves famed, so that we may reign upon a whole world, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us, that we may reign mightily over them, and that we may not become scattered over the earth on account of their wars. Now remember, God had told man to spread across the world and rule. But for some reason, they didn't want to spread around. They wanted to stick together. And they went before the king, and they told the king these words, and the king agreed with them in this affair, and he did so. All right, and then from 25 to 39, No, we'll just read 25 first. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin. And they began to build it, and whilst they were building against the Lord God of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven. And 28 to the end. And behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day. Oh, yeah, this talks about how important people were to Nimrod and his followers, or not. So they were building the tower, and some were going up, bringing bricks up to make it higher, and then people were coming back down to get more bricks, and so they were going back and forth. And if a brick should fall from their hands and get broken, they would all weep over it. And if a man fell and died, none of them would look at him. That's a little warped. All right. And the Lord knew their thoughts, and it came to pass when they were building, they cast the arrows towards the heavens, and the arrows fell upon them filled with blood. So they shot arrows up to try to kill God, and God sent them back with blood on them. And when they saw them, they said to each other, surely we have slain all those that are in heaven. For this was from the Lord, in order to cause them to err, and in order to destroy them from off the face of the ground. And they built the tower and the city, and they did this thing daily until many days and years were elapsed. And God said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him, saying, come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man shall not understand the language of his neighbor. And they did so unto them. And that's where we get the word Babel. And from that day following, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one tongue. And when the builder took from the hands of his neighbor lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon his neighbor, that he would die. And they did so many days, and they killed many of them in this manner. So they were so frustrated, they just killed people because they couldn't communicate. And the Lord smote the 3 divisions that were there, and he punished them according to their works and designs. Those who said, we will ascend to heaven and serve our gods, became like apes and elephants. And those who said, we will smite the heaven with arrows, the Lord killed them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the 3rd division of those who said, we will ascend to heaven and fight against him, the Lord scattered them throughout the earth. And, and those who were left amongst them, when they knew and understood the evil which was coming upon them, they forsook the building, and they also became scattered upon the face of the whole earth. And they ceased building the city and the tower. Therefore he called that place Babel. For there the Lord confounded the language of the whole earth. Behold, it was at the east of the land of Shinar. And so, as to the tower which the sons of men built, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up 1/3 part thereof, and a fire also descended from heaven and burned another third, and the other third is left to this day. And it is of that part which was aloft, and its circumference is 3 days' walk. That is massive. And many of the sons of men died in that tower, a people without number. So they tried to kill God by shooting arrows up. He switched it around, sent them back with blood on. They thought they were succeeding, and they carried on until they came to their just end. So that's what happened, and that's what's going to happen again. It's just a little bit encouraging, to read about how things don't work out for Satan. All right, so now let's come to more current times. There is another plan by Satan not to kill Abram this time. But you notice when he tries to kill someone, God likes to pull a switch on him. So even when Satan tried to kill Moses, he killed so many babies, but the one he was trying to kill ends up in his own palace, being raised by his own daughter, right under his nose. Is that hilarious or what? That's funny. Now, okay, so we know that there's a plan to kill the man-child of Revelations. So we'll just quickly read that. We've probably all heard that by now. All right, the dragon stood in front of the woman. So this is Revelation 12:4b to 5. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so that he might devour her child the moment it was born. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. And her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. All right. And this is where it says the woman fled. And then eventually the dragon tried to inundate her, but the earth helped her out, so she was good too. All right, so I have a theory. It's only a theory. But, yeah. So I think that his plan to kill the man-child somehow involves, perhaps, the sun, the weaponized 5G system, and targeted individuals. That's his plan. But it's not going to work. I had a dream recently that I'm going to share at this point concerning Satan's inventions and such. God showed me something really cool, and I put it on video on the one called Our God Laughs at His Enemies. It's a really cool revelation because, bottom line, no matter what Satan builds, God is going to use it for his own purposes. And this is what's going to happen, is Satan's going to realize that everything he did only served to build God's kingdom. And that is going to just torment him. And that's funny. I felt God laughing about that. Like, that serves him right. Anyway, okay, so let's go back to this dream, because this was a recent one. Oh, great, I didn't put a date on it. It was like maybe a couple of weeks ago. All right, so in this dream, someone was selling a huge machine. It took an entire house, like a really big house. Every room was full of different aspects of this machine. I discerned that the man buying the machine was evil. But the owner was showing him all the rooms and all the systems and explaining every detail to him. And this evil buyer was just taking it in. He was just couldn't wait to get all this information. And he took no notes. He was just brilliant. Like, he was able to just absorb this as soon as it was spoken. He just, yeah. He was given full understanding. I told someone in authority, don't sell to him. He's evil. And they laughed. And I thought, do they think like I'm really an idiot, or like what? Why are they laughing? And then later when I woke up, I remembered that dream, Our God Laughs at His Enemies. It was like, honey, you have no idea what's going on here, okay? All right, so the evil guy, I spoke to him, and he threw olives at me. I saw olives, but I thought grapes. It was really weird. He was throwing, what I saw was olives, but in my head, I was thinking he's throwing grapes. And he was treating them like they were garbage, like just using them like dirt to throw at people. So to me, olives speaks of the Jewish people, and grapes speaks of the church. All right. So I was respectful, and he did it. He did it for no reason. There was absolutely no reason to do it. And there was some kind of a race in the snow on toboggans. I'll just skip over that part because I don't have no idea what that means. Then I went back to the house and said, please don't sell. Wait till tomorrow. And I felt that we needed to try to prepare somehow. That somehow this system that was being sold was going to affect everyone in the entire world, and we weren't ready. Okay, I'll just throw this in here because so I don't forget it. But the evil guy threw olives/grapes at someone else who was also being nice. So he didn't like anybody who was nice. Okay, on the way back from that race on the toboggans, I walked up a hill and it felt like it was the one by our legislature buildings in Edmonton, and the house was not far from there. And I had this sense that maybe this system or machine had something to do with the governmental system of the world, possibly some technological aspects of this world system. It was something that this evil guy really wanted his hands on. Okay. But remember, the owner laughed. Okay? So if he's selling this to this evil guy, he's got a plan. Okay. All right, so I would really encourage you to, I don't tell the story super well, but it's a good story about our God laughing at the enemy. It was cool. All right, and I felt it, I felt it in my gut. I felt the hilarity. It was good to laugh, man, because I had been worried about the cell phone towers, right? So God gave me that to ease my fears. Now, moving on. Okay, so this is what I think will be the progression. Satan has planned a kill shot, and there's a video by Ed Dames. They have these people remote viewing and stuff, and I think maybe they're just seeing the enemy's plan, right? So his plan is for a kill shot to kill, I believe it's the man-child. Okay. God is going to pull a kill switch. He's going to switch it on him. And that kill switch is actually going to be the reset button for the church. Now, I mentioned on another video, in 2017, there was a prophet at a church. The day that I heard, "This is the year" from God and Isaiah 61, the same day the prophet said he had been in a church previously, and while he was ministering, he saw on the back wall a huge red button. And he asked the Lord what it was, and the Lord said, "It's the reset button. I need to reset the church." Woohoo! All right. So, but it's a red button, and we know that a kill switch is usually a big red button, right? So what does a reset? So the kill switch is what you hit when you can't shut off the system from inside. You hit the kill switch, and a reset button will cause the whole system to reset to God's kingdom. All right. The prophet didn't really understand that reset button idea, so he asked the Lord about it, and then he had some issues with his phone, and he had to take the phone in, and the fellow said, "Do you ever turn this phone off?" And he's like, "No, I just plug it in and carry on in the morning." And the guy said, "You need to turn it off." He said, "The system gets corrupted, but if you turn it off and then back on again, it'll reset and it won't be corrupted anymore. Okay, now we see. All right, then I would like to share my 2D Satan dream. Sorry, I have to flip. So this was a dream I had way back, well, not way back, but Friday, December 1st, 2017. So almost a year ago. All right, so in the dream, take that off. Someone showed the kids an old teaching I had that was off. Joanne said a scripture about the enemy wanting to kill, steal, and destroy. Just before that, I had seen a piece of paper, like in a cartoon, animated with a face on it. I knew it was the enemy. So it was like a paper doll, but it was all like floppy and limp, and it was all slouched over. And then when he noticed that I was there, he tried to make himself look like a man, but he was still 2D. I looked at him and he looked like paper. He had no third dimension, but he tried to puff himself up and look really, huge and intimidating. All right. I knew it was the enemy. I told him he was 2D. Then he tried to make himself look like a man, but he was still 2D, and he tried to argue with me. I told him I knew he was trying to deceive people, and that he was 2D. Then I said, I don't need to argue with you, and I disappeared from his view. So I just went around to the side into the third dimension, and I knew he wouldn't be able to see me. I didn't even need to deal with him anymore. All right. And then I have this little comment here. So this is back in December 17. I had the thought of starting a blog if God was going to be showing me these things. So that is before I started doing YouTube, which is kind of interesting because I didn't even remember writing that there. But I was like, you're 2D, man. Like, you're not that scary, all right? So, anyways, bottom line, God turns evil back on itself. So, regarding that 2D thing, because I thought it through, and I thought, you know what? I believe Satan is in a higher dimension than us at the moment. But he's going down, right? Our Bible tells us he gets cast out of heaven. He's coming down to the earth. If the man-child gets caught up and becomes like an angel, the man-child will then be in a higher dimension, and the enemy will be on the earth. So, perspective-wise, the enemy will appear to the man-child as if he's in 2D, which is how we appear to Satan before he falls. Does that make sense to you? All right. It made sense to me. Okay, so that's cool. That's cool. God's going to switch things up. All right, I would like to just make a quick comment here. Babylon, I've discovered, and I feel that it's the Holy Spirit showing me this, it represents Satan's kingdom. So both on earth, his kingdom on earth, and his kingdom in the lower spiritual realm. Okay, in that spiritual realm. Egypt stands for the world, okay? The world that we live in. And it includes, includes Satan's spiritual realm. Okay, Zion is God's kingdom. So heaven and earth, wherever God's kingdom is, that's Zion. So we have a couple of examples of Babylon going down in the Bible. And not just Revelation. In Jeremiah, I came across this one. Jeremiah 51:53. Though Babylon should mount up to heaven, and though she should fortify the height of her strength, yet from me shall spoilers come unto her, saith the Lord. spoilers. I think that's a kind of cool word, because to me, it's like spoiling Satan's joke. Do you know what I mean? He thinks he's got the last laugh, but God has people who are going to spoil his joke. And he won't have the last laugh. All right, 5163. And it shall be, when thou hast made an end of reading this book. Okay, so this king was told to read this book of judgment on Babylon when he was in Babylon. Okay, so he was to read it. That thou shalt bind a stone to it. Okay, so he was to bind a stone to that book of judgment. And cast it into the midst of the Euphrates. Which sounds very, very similar. And so that's what he did. So this actually happened way back when God's people were exiles in Babylon. Okay, so that's in Jeremiah. Then we have Revelations 8:21. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. 18:23, and the light of a candle shall shine no more in thee, in Babylon, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. This is the power that Satan has. It's all sorceries. It's all witchcraft. So, Jesus has overcome all of that. All right, so that's all I wanted to say, really. Satan's plans come to naught. It's going to be a bit of a fight. It's going to be a war. There's going to be a battle. But, yeah, he doesn't win. He doesn't win. And all the people whose hearts want righteousness are going to be saved. Hallelujah. All right. I just wanted to mention concerning tonight, because this is the first day of Sukkot, I believe, beginning tonight. Neville, on a video that I was listening to, said that on the first day of Sukkot, time ends. Okay, that's what he said. He, when he made that video, thought that Sukkot was last month. If I'm right, then this is the day that time ends, according to Neville. It is a full moon. A full moon speaks of the fullness of time. And Diana Olivieri on her channel shared that God gave her the word, the wheel of time ends Monday. But she didn't know if that actually meant a Monday, or Monday actually means moon day. And I just mention it because all those three have